Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a literal microscopic detective story, uncovering the hidden elemental secrets locked away inside plant tissues, all using atomic absorption spectrophotometry. I am so glad you're here. We're going to look really closely at how scientists take a simple leaf or a root and practically interrogate it on a molecular level to reveal exactly what it's been absorbing from the soil. To make sure we get this exactly right, we're going to unpack the specific protocol from Dr. Kim's 2025 publication-ready laboratory experiment manual. It's going to ensure our entire investigation is completely scientifically sound. You know, this manual is basically the ultimate playbook for that intersection between analytical chemistry and plant science, covering everything from the basic theory all the way down to proper waste disposal. So, here's our case file for today. 1. The plant mineral mystery. 2. Preparing the lab. 3. Digestion freeing the minerals. 4. Calibrating the AAS instrument. 5. Running the experiment. And finally 6. Calculating the final results. Let's just jump right in. Section 1. The plant mineral mystery. Okay, so plants soak up a really fascinating array of minerals from the soil just to survive, right? On one hand, you've got your macrominerals, things like calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, and iron. These are the heavy lifters. They're responsible for major structural components and cellular osmotic regulation. But on the other hand, we have our microminerals, or trace elements, like zinc, copper, manganese, and even potentially toxic heavy metals like lead and cadmium. These guys operate totally behind the scenes, acting as crucial cofactors in enzymatic reactions and complex signal transduction pathways. So to truly understand a plant's health, or say its potential toxicity to whatever ends up eating it, we absolutely have to extract and quantify the exact concentrations of these specific elements. To find these tiny microscopic clues, we're going to use our ultimate diagnostic tool, Atomic Absorption Spectrophotometry, or AAS for short. This is the absolute gold standard analytical technique for this kind of process. It offers exceptional sensitivity. We are talking about detecting elements all the way down to parts per billion. It works on this really beautiful principle using highly specific wavelengths of light to detect individual elements. It gives us this rapid throughput and element-specific detection that is honestly practically unmatched for biological matrices like this. All right, Section 2, Preparing the Lab. Listen, the absolute most crucial point here is that in trace mineral analysis, cleanliness is literally everything. A single speck of dust can totally ruin your data. So we start by acid washing all of our glassware, soaking it overnight in 10% nitric acid, rinsing it 3 times with ultra-pure water, and then drying it in an oven at 70 degrees Celsius. We also meticulously prep our reagents. We're using things like 5% lanthanum chloride and 0.2% cesium chloride, which basically act as chemical bodyguards to prevent interferences and ensure zero cross-contamination. And meanwhile, the plant samples themselves are collected from the field, washed, dried, and ground down into a super fine powder. Moving on to Section 3, Digestion, freeing the minerals. So we're at a bit of a methodological crossroads here. According to foundational methods, we can either use wet acid digestion or dry ashing. Wet digestion uses really strong acids, like that nitric acid we mentioned, combined with heat to chemically obliterate the organic material while it's in a liquid state. Dry ashing, on the other hand, places the weighed plant tissue in a muffle furnace for hours to literally burn away all the organic material, which just leaves a mineral ash residue that we then dissolve in acid. But honestly, both methods basically involve burning down the biological house just so we can count the mineral bricks left behind. Which brings us to Section 4, Calibrating the AAS instrument. Now, the AAS relies on perfect flame stoichiometry to atomize our samples. We have to tune our gas mixtures exactly right. For a lot of elements, we'll use an air acetylene flame. We dial the airflow rate to 13.5 liters per minute and the acetylene to roughly 2.0 to 2.5 liters per minute. If we do this perfectly, we get this beautiful blue-centered cone with yellow tips. But for more stubborn, refractory elements, we might need to switch over to a nitrous oxide acetylene flame, which runs as a rich red-orange flame. Plus, because every single element absorbs light in its own unique way, we have to dial in the exact operating wavelength on the spectrophotometer. It's kind of like tuning a radio. For example, if we're hunting for iron, we set the machine to exactly 248.3 nanometers. For zinc, it's 213.9 nanometers. Tuning this hollow cathode lamp perfectly is what guarantees accurate detection down to those tiny, tiny fractions of a milligram per liter. All right, Section 5, Running the Experiment. Dr. Cam lays out a really strict rhythmic sequence for analyzing these samples. We definitely don't just throw the plant juice in and hope for the best. First, we run a reagent blank. Then, we build a multi-point calibration curve by running external calibration standards, which are labeled S0 through S5. These are carefully prepared through serial dilution from a known stock solution. We're effectively teaching the machine what different concentrations look like so we can accurately identify the unknown values of our actual samples later. After checking a certified reference material, or CRM, to prove our machine is actually telling the truth, we finally run our real plant samples in triplicate. Oh, and just to be super safe, we run a quality control check standard every 10 samples. Now, while the digestion and prep phases are happening, you are the detective here. You've got to watch for critical visual clues. When you first add that nitric acid to the plant tissue, you should watch for initial effervescence. Then, note the transition to a yellow-brown color, and this is huge. Be incredibly careful of the evolution of toxic NOx fumes. You monitor this entire violent chemical reaction until the digest is completely clear and colorless, which signals that the organic matrix is fully destroyed. As the AAS scans the solutions, we're carefully logging those raw absorbance values into a data recording sheet. We log the digest volume and the 3 replicate absorbance readings for each sample, whether that's a leaf, a root, or a shoot, and then calculate the mean. This right here gives us the hard mathematical evidence we need to close the case. Finally, Section 6, calculating the final results. This brings us to the ultimate question for this explainer. The spectrophotometer tells us the concentration of minerals floating in our final liquid digest tube, but how on earth do we back calculate to find out what was actually inside the original dry plant before we burned it down? Well, we use a really vital conversion formula to figure this out. To find the true concentration in the dry tissue, measured in milligrams per kilogram of dry weight, we take the solution concentration read from our calibration curve, multiply it by the final digest volume, and then multiply by any dilution factor we used. Then we divide all of that by the original dry weight of the sample in kilograms. This mathematical conversion is the key. It translates laboratory liquid into true agronomic data. But look, a good scientist never just blindly trusts the first number they see, right? We have to prove our findings are rock solid. So we validate our calibration curve linearity, making sure our R-squared value is greater than or equal to 0.9990. We verify our accuracy by checking that our machine correctly measured that known certified reference material. We check our precision by comparing the triplicate results. And ultimately, we take our final heavy metal data, things like lead and cadmium, and compare it directly against the World Health Organization and FAO permissible limits. And let's move to this final procedural step, because like any responsible forensic unit, the job just isn't done until the scene is cleaned up. All hazardous acid and heavy metal waste absolutely must be properly segregated, labeled, and disposed of according to strict environmental regulations, like EPA guidelines or NEQS standards. We literally never pour heavy metal solutions down the drain. Mastering these super meticulous techniques really builds on a legacy of decades of analytical chemistry. Standards established in foundational texts like J. Benton Jones's Laboratory Guide for Conducting Soil Tests and Plant Analysis, or the official methods of the AAS. This is exactly how scientists protect our agricultural ecosystems today. These aren't just dry laboratory exercises. They are the absolute bedrock of environmental science. So, as we close the book on this experiment, I want to leave you with this to think about. Armed with the knowledge of exactly how to extract, isolate, and measure the precise elemental makeup of any plant, how could mastering this kind of microscopic detective work help solve the massive food safety and environmental contamination challenges facing our world today? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.